Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Before the Japanese came, we expected something to happen. And we didn't. Wait a minute, hold on, I got them. And it did. After we got back to our home base, which was Wheeler Field at that time. And we got back home about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Where had you been?
Yeah.
Where had you been?
Oh, we had been into Honolulu, having just a stag party.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, of course, we discussed the problem we were having with the Japanese.
Oh, Bob Young just called.
Who?
Bob Young.
I have no idea.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
While we were on this party, we were discussing the problem that we were having with the Japanese. The consensus, our consensus, was that nothing would ever happen. That this would blow over and relations would be reestablished with the Japanese. So when we got back to the base, Wheeler Field, which was about 17 miles away, we all went to bed. And I plopped down on the bed in my tuxedo, thinking, well, I'll just wake up later on and put it on. And so I did that, and I had a corner room, on the second floor. And a friend of mine, close buddy, was across the hall, and he went to bed same time I did, and
What's his name?
Gordon Sterling. And so at about close to 8 o'clock, I was awakened very abruptly by this airplane. It was coming in low. And I looked out my window. I raised up and looked out my window. And saw a big red star on the side. Fall, red.
The Japanese sun, huh?
Japanese insignia.
Uh-huh.
Red
Circle?
circle, yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. And when I saw that, well, then I knew that this was it. So, of course, I jumped up and put on my flying suit and went down with my buddy across the hall. And we had a hard time getting to the flight line because of the attacking Japanese planes. We were
Were they shooting at you?
they were shooting at us, yeah. And we had a hard time getting down there. And then when we got there, the airplanes that we would have flown, had they had ammunition, were still sitting on the ramp. So we had to, between the Japanese attacks, strafing attacks on us, we had to get maintenance help to come and arm our airplanes because the ammunition had been taken out of the airplane a few days before at the order of the commanding general. He wanted to take an estimate of what we had in the way of ammunition.
Wow.
So we had a hard time getting enough ammunition and getting the planes armed. But when we did, of course, we took off as fast as we could get an airplane. And my buddy Sterling took off right behind me, and he got killed on that same flight by Japanese. He got in contact with Japanese and got killed. Well, I didn't run into any Japanese after I got in my airplane. But I did come across Wheeler Field, not Wheeler Field, but the Navy base, to looking for Japanese, and I was shot at with some 6-inch ammunition that the Navy used, and got hit around one time because I had,
By the Navy?
by the Navy.
Oh, they thought you were a Japanese.
Yeah, I was flying at between 5,000 and 6,000 feet,
Uh-huh.
and they couldn't tell for sure. Everything happened so abruptly, and killing all of the native people in the harbor. It was a terrible thing. But I ran out of gas. Well, didn't run out completely, but I got down low on gas because a hole had been knocked into my engine.
By the shot that they fired at you?
Yeah, and my gas tank. They knocked a hole in it, so I figured I better get back and get another airplane, which I did. And
You went back to Pearl Harbor and got another plane?
well, I went back to Pearl Harbor because the plane I was in had a leak, a hole in the gas tank, and
Uh-huh.
one of the gas tanks.
Uh-huh.
And I figured that I wouldn't be much good with lacking fuel.
Right.
So I had a hard time getting in to Wheeler Field, my home base, because all surrounding the base was this sugar cane, big industry in Honolulu at that time, and still is. But I went in across to try to get into the base, and these little fellows were shooting at me with automatic weapons. So
The Japanese were, or the
No, Americans.
Americans were? They thought you were a Japanese, what do they call them, Zeros?
Yeah, zeros.
Japanese Zeros?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they thought that I was everything was so. I can't-
Hectic?
Hectic, huh?
Hectic, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good word. Everything was so hectic that these youngsters didn't know
Who was
the
who, huh?
difference.
They're shooting at you with machine guns?
Yeah, so I immediately made a turn out across the sugar cane, and I figured, well, the only way I'm gonna get in safely is to get down right on top of the sugar cane. And when I reached the boundary of the airport, I would cut my throttle, which I did, and let the airplane flop down on the grass. Not the cement part, but the grass part. And then I taxied on up to the hangar. Well, then they could see that they were shooting at the wrong airplane. And the signal on my plane was the star and
Right.
yeah. And so from then on, it was pretty hectic. But the Japanese had hit us first, and we hit the base, all the airplanes on the base, tried to knock them all out,
Right.
which they came pretty close to doing.
How many, there were only 10 of you that got off the ground? Or 11 of you?
Well, I'd say that.
10 or 11 of you,
But
right?
now, some of them, two or three or four, belonged to the squadron that was on the beach, Haleiwa Beach, because they were doing gunnery training when all this happened.
I see.
Oh.
And so they ran out to their airplanes, and of course their airplanes had
Were, right.
ammunition and were ready to go.
Were your planes, did you get your planes ready to go, or did you have to fly without ammunition?
Well, no, we had to wait until they were ready to go
Oh,
with
okay.
ammunition.
I see.
Would be the point of going up without ammunition.
Except to hide, right.
Yeah. So that we did, but it was really the Japanese had gone back to the carrier,
Right, and they
which was
sunk
about
the,
50 miles offshore. See?
right.
And of course, we got rearmed and made a lot of flights to make sure that there wasn't somebody coming in
Uh-huh.
again. And that went on for several days. And
Now, how many of the first 10 or 11 planes that went up, how many of those men died after, when they went up in the air?
Gordon Sterling's the only one I can think of that didn't die. And he died immediately. I don't believe anybody else did of that number of airplanes.
And you were you shot by machine gun fire from the ground at that Air Force base?
At the airport, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And another thing, too, the B-17s were coming in from the United States right at that time. And during the moments that we were on the ground, not flying, but we were on the ground waiting for ammunition for Alpha, the little fellows were in charge of automatic weapons, were shooting at the B-17s that they were coming in from the United States.
Oh, good grief.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so we had to run quickly and correct them. They couldn't.
You had to tell them, huh?
They just weren't thinking.
Right.
And that's about it.
Wow.
Wow.
Grampy, what was the name of your airplane? At one point you had a Fightin' Maggie, or
Yeah,
named after your mother?
yeah.
Was that the airplane you were in?
Right, no, because we didn't have planes assigned to us at that time.
I see.
Quick, shortly thereafter, when they assigned the plane to us, we put out on the signal.
I see. So it was after that you got Fightin' Maggie.
Yeah.
Huh? I see.
Spittin' Maggie.
Spittin' Maggie.
Spittin'
Yeah.
Maggie.
Okay. And that was named after Granny? Did you name it after Granny?
Yeah.
Did you?
Spittin' Maggie.
Spittin' Maggie. So is that the plane that you flew on a regular basis?
Well, yes, but
Uh-huh.
it was. We got better upgraded our aircraft several times
Mm-hmm.
during the war.
Mm-hmm.
We went from P-40s to P-40s and P-36s we were using, and then we got rid of those and got P-38,
Mm-hmm.
P-39, P-41,
Mm-hmm.
and they were the better fighters. P-47.
These were little single engine or twin engine?
Single
engine, right there at the nose, right?
Single seat, yeah.
And when you say fighter planes, what does that mean?
Fighter plane.
What's a fighter plane? Doesn't have bombs, right? It has
Well,
machine
it
guns?
has ammunition, and it can carry front bombs too.
Oh, okay.
Drop on strategic point.
But now, was there just one pilot, or were there two people, a pilot and then a gunner? How many people flew in your plane with you? Just you?
Each aircraft?
Yeah.
One.
Oh, I know.
Just you. It was your plane, you were by yourself, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fighter planes. We didn't have any,
So you were flying this thing and shooting at the same time?
oh, yeah. The fighter planes were all like that.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't, I was trying to think, we didn't have two-seater. I mean, the P-38 was twin engines, and it had a second seat behind the.
Now, tell me the story about these submarines that you were you actually in a submarine?
No,
Looking for submarines, I think.
Looking for submarines is from where? Airplanes or bases or what?
well, yeah, from airplanes.
Oh, really? And airplanes could look for submarines?
You can see the silhouette of a.
Oh, really? That's what you're
submarine.
looking for.
It is if it's not too deep.
Yeah.
And submarines, of course, had pretty good sized ammunition on the deck. Guns.
Yeah.
I forgot what size, but they had the surface to do any firing of their own. But
They didn't have any torpedoes?
yeah,
Okay.
and torpedoes.
Oh, just to fire the airplanes. They had this. They had the surface.
Yeah. Now the airplanes, our airplanes, the fighter planes didn't have torpedoes. They had bombs that they could drop.
No, I'm just saying that the submarines had the surface to shoot at airplanes, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But did submarines didn't shoot at airplanes, did they? Did they shoot at airplanes?
Well, only if they got in a tight spot,
Oh.
trying to get out of a tight spot. They would.
Mhm.
I think it happened a few times.
Oh, okay. I didn't know a submarine could shoot at an airplane.
Yeah.
Now, in those single-engine planes, could you do like barrel rolls and
Oh yeah.
loop-de-loops?
Sure.
You did those?
Every time we flew.
Did you really?
Wow.
Every time.
Did you really?
Were those strategical maneuvers? Barrel rolls and
Well, yeah,
loop-de-loops?
they give you confidence in your airplane, and it's a lot of fun,
Oh, did it make you really sick?
and it's yeah, and
Made us
getting away
passengers
from if you
sick if we
get
had 'em.
caught with some enemy on your tail, being able to do those maneuvers correctly. Oh, good. You shake the guy that's chasing you and trying to shoot you.
Yeah, now, if a guy is chasing you, can you do like a loop-de-loop and be right behind him and start chasing him? Was that ever
Well, yeah.
a strategical
Oh, yeah.
maneuver?
Sure. Yeah.
Huh. So you did loop-de-loops and twists. You know, in Kentucky, when I go to Kentucky every year, they have an air show where all these pilots from all over come and they do fancy. You know, they have the old antique planes and they have the bomber or the fighter planes. They have those stealth planes that go straight up. You know, and they'll
Those
do
look-
that.
Those aren't stealth.
Whatever they are, those planes that go straight, I mean, they go straight up. And they have these pilots that come and they do all kinds of formations and loop-de-loops and stuff like that.
New bomb, right?
And talking to them, I listen to them in the bars, you know, and they talk about how sick they get when they do those things, you know, and they're always talking about, oh, God, I ate lunch before I went up, and I lost my lunch all over so-and-so, you know, and...
Now, what kinds of planes were you trained to fight against? Just Japanese Zeros or German planes too, or what?
To fight against.
Yeah.
No, just you had your own weapon, your airplane, depending upon what airplanes we were using at that time.
No, I mean like what planes were you trained to fight against? Like,
Oh, no airplane specifically.
oh really?
That's right. No. But we had the best airplanes. I mean, our airplanes could outmaneuver. The Japanese were good. They could maneuver very well. And of course, on the German side, they had some good maneuverable airplanes. But when we finished our training and considered ourselves to be combat ready in that aircraft, it would be the aircraft that the Air Force was using at that time. Like I just mentioned, we got first the P-40s, and then we went on up to the P-36s, P-40s, P-39, P-38, P-41, P-47, so forth, at different times over a period of 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So the aircraft that we were using were as good as you could build. And that's what helped do the job.
Okay.
Of course, we didn't do it all by any means.
Yeah. Now,
Squealing.
Yeah, it is. I can hear it.
Uh-huh.
now, Did you ever get to fly a Japanese Zero or a German plane?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or Russian, what do they call them? Russian ones were the MiGs?
MiGs.
Were those the MiGs?
MiGs are the newer
And the
ones.
German ones are the
They're the huge
something
jets.
Schmitz? The
Stuka. Messerschmitts. and
Messerschmitts.
Stukas.
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 Stukas. Huh.
But
Now, where did you get your training at?
I first went to Muskogee, Oklahoma, which is close to Tulsa.
Okay.
That was the first airplane used for training, or training base
Okay.
for beginners. I was a beginner when I went to Tulsa. Went to Muskogee. And after several months there, those of us who were considered adapted to flying, we would move on to the second base,
Where was that?
Randolph Air Force Base in Texas, right out of San Antonio.
Okay.
Still there.
That's good.
That's better.
That's got it.
Then after that, and it was known as the Westport of the Air,
Okay.
and stayed there several months, and then went to Brooksfield, which was close by, and it was right outside of San Antonio, Texas. Then after at Brooksfield, we got our wings.
Okay.
And we qualified for all the training. We got the good winnings on it, commissioned us as second lieutenants. And
All right.
as soon as we got that out of the way,